What up? This is Matt from Matt Tech Tidbits. Today we're going to do a project from start to finish, so it's going to be a little bit longer formatted video, but excited to do it. This one's going to be on import HTML, where we're going to pull data, or specifically a table from Google's website into a spreadsheet to get a function list. And from that, we'll also use a query function in order to sort, as well as be able to filter down using some dropdowns in there. So excited to do this. There's a lot of applications that you can use these functions for. So even if you're not really interested in this specifically, there's a lot to learn and a lot to use. So, see me on the other side of the screen and, oh, my hat's a little too green. I might not wear this next time. Anyway, see you on my screen. Hey there, welcome to my screen. Here we're going to take a look at import HTML. Again, you can make a blank sheet here. I already have some of it there. Sometimes if you're doing the call too many times, it gets a little, honestly, you get a parsing issue, and I think I've just been messing around with it a bunch. So that's where I have it here. It hopefully will work here. Otherwise, I can undo it. But in any case, I'll help show kind of what's going on here. Now, as mentioned, we're going to do a project to kind of start from finish. So the first thing is you'll need to get this link. We're going to be using import HTML. We'll use the query function. We'll use a little bit of if logic with concat or concatenate, and then some data validation as well as conditional formatting just to make it look a little nicer. So to get started, you need to go and get to this link. Now you can use the link that I have here just by looking at the screen and typing it. Otherwise, if you just search Google Sheets function list, that'll get you to the website. So the website here should look like this. And this is the Google Sheets function list. You can see that there is this data table that has every single one, and this is what we want to take. Now, just thinking about this, honestly, the import HTML is best used for something if you know it gets like, updated multiple times a day or daily, and you just want the current version of it. I've had this for about 3 weeks now, and honestly, there hasn't been anything that's been added in that time. So I'd say ultimately this table, you could probably just copy and paste and you could get away with that. And, occasionally check back if there's a new sheet and then add it. Again, if you're wanting the most current updated, you can use it here. And again, it's a great one to just practice learning, as well as at the end, there's functionality of having this list or a table full of all the functions from Google Sheets. So once you're on the website, there's two things that you need to check and make sure for this, just to know that import HTML will work. The first thing is that it is in HTML. That's where the web site is created in that language, I believe. I'm not a web developer, so sorry if it's like a different name, but it has to be in HTML. The second thing is you have to check, is this actually in table or a list or some other element on there? Because if it's another element, like if this is just like a photo or something, you wouldn't be able to pull the data. So what you can do to check these things is you can right click, click inspect. If you're on a different web browser, it might be a little different, but you just need to see this information here. So the first, you can see how you can kind of just see how all of this is, organized, and it highlights the different things. So right here, it's highlighting that whole thing that we want, and it says table. So that's a table element, and that means that that should work. Up here at the top, doc type is HTML. So that also indicates that this should work. Now, just because a website has HTML and a table on it does not mean that this is going to work. Like if there's a passcode that you have to get in to see that table, it's not going to work because in import HTML, there isn't a way to like encode your password and username or things like that to actually see it. Same if a website has certain security settings on it. There's just times where it will not work. So if you're getting errors, chances are it's one of those. You can kind of Google search some different ones there. Anyway, let's get started. We know that it should work, so let's start writing the formula. So I'm just going to remove this so we have it. First off, you need to call the first function, which is import HTML, then the URL. So it needs to be in quotation marks, the double quotation marks to show that this is the URL. Next is the table. So this is the query. You can either do a list or a table. We looked, it was a table, so that's our query. Next one is index. It says starting at 1. It might just be that this is the only one. 0 is working for me, so I'm just leaving it. So hopefully it works for me here now that I'm recording. But that's again another. And then lastly is the locale. So this is just the language that you're using, which would be EN_US if you're, English in the United States. So once you have all of that, you can hit enter. Sweet, it worked here. So I'm just going to delete this. Happy that we got it. So we have this table and we have all this information here. You can see that it just is pulling it from whatever order. Should be the same one. Let's see. Well, no, this is actually a little different. So, because it's starting with date, let's just make sure we have array. So I'm just going to go down to the bottom. Yep, have array. So it's just not in any sort order. There's even this little bit that is also getting added. Try your keyword on Google Web Search. Command up. So I'm just going to put that there because we don't really want this in there. And so we'll kind of filter it out. So the first thing, this is going to be our header here. And, you could, or one thing that you might try, and I'll just show you, is the sort function, which has the range. And then you can choose, well, I want the sort column to be 1, and then is ascending true. And then I want sort column 2, ascending true. Enter. And so what that does is it sorts it by this one first, then by this. So if this first column is, and this is all array, then it's going to sort this secondary thing. So like, even though this is a D, it's going to be underneath like VStack and all of these ones because array is the first thing getting sorted. However, that this is going to also be included, and then we just lost our header. So in T, there's going to be like that, try your keywords, and then here's going to be the header. So there isn't really a way to add those to the top with just sort and like filter or something like that. So this is where we're going to use, and let me remove those. This is where we're going to use the function called query. And this is a Google function. The first part of it is data. And so that generally has been a cell reference if you're using within it. But in this case, we're actually just using this entire thing. And so we're going to import the 4 columns, the type, the name, the syntax, I think is what I can't see there. And then, yeah, just kind of the description. So next is going to be the query. And usually, I mean, I like to just add some lines here to help see it a little bit better. I guess I should show this though. Yeah, there we go. All right, so the query, it uses this SQL language. And if you're familiar with SQL, then you'll probably really like this formula and it'll make sense. If you've never used it, it's going to just kind of be like, what's going on here? And, again, that's okay. We'll kind of walk through it. It's not going to be an in-depth of it, but just kind of to show. So the first thing is you have to select which columns you want. So it's select, and you could say column 1, column 2, column, and, do whatever columns there are. Or if you want all of them, you can just do asterisk, which means select all. The data that we're using is already in there. So usually in SQL, you do select all from the data source, but we already have the data there, so we just skip it. So it's select all. Then the next is a where. And again, this is where you can filter down or you can use logic to show certain things. So we're just going to start off by saying where column 1 is not equal. So greater than or less than or greater than nothing, meaning not equal to nothing. Next, you can do order by, and we'll add more to this too. Order by is essentially the sorting. So it's order by column 1 first, and you can either say ascending by AS or ASC or descending by DESC. If you leave it blank, it's just going to do ascending already. And then you can also use a comma and then say column 2. And then this will be also ascending. So, I mean, again, you can put ascending if you want. And yeah, I think that's good. So we'll end it. And I guess I didn't start it. You do need double quotes for both of these. So let me just put some here. And then thinking about it, I believe this is going to actually be in the single quotes. We'll find out if we get an error quick here. And then you need a comma. And then here's where that header is. So you can just, by using a number, show how many are headers. You can say 1, 2, 4. In this case, there's just the 1. So it's going to have that 1. Let's hit enter. Cool. Okay, so it was that. So now we have this in order there. If you remember, though, we still have this try your keywords on. We want to remove this. So I'm just copying this. I'm going to go back in here, and in this where, I'm just going to add another where. So I'm going to put and just add a new line using command enter, and then column 1 is not equal to, and then parenthesis, or 1 single quote, end single quote. So hit enter, and then let's just double check. We can go down to where the T's are, and it's not there. So let's see, undo. Yep, there it is, redo. Now it's gone. Perfect. So now we have this set where we have the, header locked in. We don't have any null values or empty, and we don't have this. So we've gotten this set pretty well. I'm just gonna, kind of make it a little more clear, like, hey, this is the header. If you want, you can highlight and then just kind of push that twice, and it'll actually make it to show all of the things. Oh, that's there. So let me do that again. There we go. So it'll just show everything on there. You can also kind of like, I don't think I need it to be that big. Like you can go here and then highlight them, and then up at the top, text wrapping. So it'll make it a little bit bigger there, but at least, a little bit readable. I personally don't use A that much here, just for like, say, printing. You can do that. So this is just kind of to show that this is a table. And I'm going to put some more information. And again, you don't need to do this, but I like to do, if I have two different kind of data information here, I like to put that there, because then if you do command A, you'll just select this table. Because the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to use the same query, but I want to see what's the count of each type. Like how many arrays are there? How many, how many of the mathematical or database, what are those? So we can actually use query to do a count there. You could do like a unique and then a count if, but you can actually do all of that in here. So query, the same information. This time I'm going to select column 1, which is the type, and then I'm going to select, count of column 1. So this is going to count those. Still, we don't want any nulls, and we don't want this to be a part of it. Now we're going to have to do something else called group by, and that's where it's going to aggregate this function. Like we're doing that count, but it's not just going to count and then put a number next to every single one of them. You'll get an error if you don't have the group by. So the group by is going to be column 1 saying we want column 1 to be where all the numbers go to. So it's just going to show essentially the unique values in type and then a number next to it. Order by, I'm just going to say column 1. Now you could say count by column 1. And what that would do is it actually order it by whichever number is largest or smallest, depending, smallest if it's ascending, largest if it's descending. So I'll show that in a bit. Let's just make sure that this works. The other thing you can do too is you can actually label, and that goes at the end. Let me put a couple lines so we can see. Label, and then count column 1. Well, I'll add that in a bit. Let's just see if it works. Enter. Here we go. So yeah, by default, it'll do count of whatever you counted. So count of type. So here we have that. And again, it's like uniques over here because it's being grouped, and then it's just counting how many times is this seen. So you can even scroll down and look at this, 513, that's how many functions there are. So with this, what I'm going to do is add this, or, we can show, you can order by count, column 1, and then let's do, whoops, descending order. And so now it's going to show the top one all the way down to the smallest, which is filter, only has 4. Again, it's up to you which way you want to do it. I prefer just in the order, like A to Z. That's just what I prefer. And then you can do label count column 1, and then you just put in single quotes what you want it to do. So maybe you have like count of functions, whatever you want. And then there we go. So highlight that. Just going to add that same kind of border. I might just move it down to this and then make that look like 2 lines, count of functions. Again, kind of unnecessary, but it's nice to show it. And just to keep that formatting smaller. I don't personally like grid lines, so I'm just going to remove grid lines. There, that's looking pretty good. And then Shift Command and then to all the way there. I'm just going to delete those because we don't need that. Looking pretty good. So we have this in here. The next thing that we want to do is I'd like to have a dropdown that shows all the types. So like these types over here. And I'd like to be able to filter based off of that dropdown. So I'm just going to enter a row above here. I guess I could have done it at the top here, but I just always like to have blank rows at the tops and on the sides. Just helps. It's, again, user choice, dealer's choice, whatever. So let's start by adding data validation. So data validation, add a rule, and we want a drop down from a range. And so click that to select the range, and I know it's going to be G4 all the way down, so G4 down. And so that's going to be array, all of those. And it's going to be in alphabetical order, which is what I want. A couple of other things you can choose to do. You can switch it to colors if you want. Advanced options, you can switch it from chip to arrow or to plain text. For this one, since there's not too many, I think the chip kind of looks nice. You can reject or show a warning. For this one, I'd like to reject it because I want to be able to filter from it. So here's that. Here's the one that's colored. Really, I'd probably just keep it as is, and I might expand this a little bit. But in any case, so now the next thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to connect it so that in this query, it will pull this and then basically only show whatever is showing up here. So how to do this, it's going to be in the where. So I'm just going to add some lines here so that now and column 1 equals, and basically what this should be is whatever's written on there. So right now it is array, for example. So let's just make sure that works. So it does work. So now what we need to do is instead of array, we need this to reference this cell right here. So you can't just put B2 because this literally thinks the text is B2. Why? Well, because it's in these quotation marks, the double quotation marks. So it's green there, so that just shows it's in there, and that's as text. So what you need to do in order to get this into a cell reference is that you have to actually end the query, then you have to append something. So you want to append by doing the ampersand like and symbol. And then you have to do the same thing on the other side, just in opposite order. So you're saying, okay, end the query, and then add this cell reference, then add and start the query again, and then finish off with this text right here. So hit enter, and there we go. We get that same thing. So if I switch this to database, you can see that it switches it as well. Now, this is kind of the first part, and it works up until you remove it. If you remove it, nothing is showing. Why? Well, it's still referencing this cell. And so now what this reads is in column 1 equals blank. So you have something that's not equal to blank and equal to blank. So you're just not going to get anything. We said that there's one header row, so we have that header row there, and then everything else is empty. So the next step of this, if you want to be able to show all of it if it's on blank, is you're going to have to put an if statement in here. And basically what you want is the if statement to go, if this is blank, this whole line should get discarded, removed. If it's not blank, then add and column equals all of this. So it's going to take a little bit more, but we'll get there, okay? Hopefully the logic of it makes sense. So let's start. The first thing is that we're going to need that if statement, and we need to kind of break here. So we're going to do this break here, and I'm just going to remove this. So now append if. I'm just going to add this so we have that logical expression, and then we'll work on that later. So now it's breaking, then it's going to do and if statement. So now if B2, and let's see, if the logical expression B2 equals nothing, then nothing. If it's false, then the text that we want is and column 1 equals, we want this there as well, blank. Oh, and we need this in concatenate, sorry. So let me back it up. So now what we need to do is we need to have this text string plus B2 plus this end one. So how we can achieve that is concatenate, and column 1 equals, so we have this part here, then we want B2, so instead of those, comma, this is the second string, comma, and then we need the end quote that ends the concat, that ends the if statement. We can remove this because now it's right here. And just if you kind of hover over this, you can see what this is going to be. So right now it's going to be in column 1 equals nothing. But then once when there's an array there, then it's going to be in there. And that's what we want to add if there's something. So that's done. So now this if statement's here. Now we have to put that ampersand to add it back. And then we need that end quote, which then says, let's start it. And then this ends it right there. So I believe this should work. Sometimes you have to kind of noodle and mess around with it a little bit. It gets, again, a little bit complicated here, but it's definitely, worth it if it works. Right on. So it did work. Here we have all of it because this if statement is false. It's right now going through and just the result is nothing. So basically it's breaking, not adding anything, and then starting up again, the query. So let's try database. Now we just get the database, array, and then if I delete it by going over and just pushing delete, now we have all of it. So sweet, that is working. Let's go ahead and add another rule and then make it a drop down from a range. And this time I'm actually going to pick B4 down to B. So that's basically showing all of it. C4 to C. There we go. And so that's going to be all of the names. Personal preference, but it just looks better and you get more information and less scrolling if it's in arrow. So that just looks better with this list. You can also, if you click on it and start typing HStack, you can say like, oh, what does this do? Or what was that? X lookup, enter. So we have that there. We just don't yet have this connected. Now we already did most of the hard work right here. Let's just copy that whole thing, put another line, paste it, and then instead of B2, switch it to C2. And the only other thing is we have to make sure it's connected to column 2. Hit enter, And now it just pulled this X lookup. So let's remove it, and then it all works. So I pulled all of this for this dropdown, connected it here. And again, you could choose to like have it on another sheet and then connect it there so this always shows it. But myself, I would prefer to be able to first go like, let's say to lookups. And so then we have these lookups right here. If I go over to this dropdown, now these are the only lookups that are here. So now we have this kind of filtered down all of the lookups that you can then say like, oh, cool. I knew it was something lookup. I think it was V lookup. And then we have it there. Once you click to one though, then you'll have to delete this one. Likewise, if you delete this, it doesn't make a difference. If you delete this one, here we go. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't work backwards. So let's say you pick one like by row, then here, you'll still have all of these because they're starting them here. Um, Again, this is a shorter list, so you just have to know, like, let's say we just, information and then by row. This is not, it's an invalid because it's not part of the info, and then it'll have nothing here. So just be aware with that. Kind of the purpose is you either use this one, then this one, or just this being that. So the name of them. So hopefully that makes sense with the logic, but this is essentially exactly what I wanted to do. Other thing that might be helpful and, useful here is you could do like COUNTA and then just start with B4 all the way down to B. And this will just show the total functions. And then maybe we want to do filter type, filter name, total functions. And then what you can do, I mean, we have it over here, but it's just kind of nice. You go to engineering, this will switch. There's 47 over here. Just, again, some of these are kind of lower down there. And, honestly, you might just want to not have this. You could, group these ones to this, and then just, yeah, not have that shown, because we essentially have what's going on here and then the total function count. The only thing is when you have all of them, you don't know how many per. So, again, it's up to you if you want this showing at all times or not. But yeah, so looking pretty good. Let's just do that. Might do a little bit of, let's say, fill color. Actually, fill color, and then now that I'm just kind of getting a little bit fancy, so don't worry. And then if I copy this, you can paste, oops, not values, paste, oh, what is it? Paste special, format only. Oh, option V, rookie, and then bold it again, there. Just to make this drop down look a little different. I mean, again, if you have the color, it's not there, but then these ones are that. I don't have anything here, so maybe you want to just go another grayscale lower. I'm going to do Command A, and then for this, I'm going to use format and do alternate colors. Oh, maybe I want, oh yeah, I don't want it there, cancel. So let me remove this because I want it to go all the way down, and then just these ones. So data, sorry, format, alternate colors. Let's see how that gray looks with these. Not too bad. Or are those the same? Let's see. Yeah, kind of gives a little gray there. Honestly, I could spend some more time on this and kind of mess around with it, but really just wanting this, this part here, which is, makes it look a little nicer. I might even select all and then just switch the font. That looks kind of cool. Just like that. I also sometimes like, isn't there like, there's Google Sans. Was that what I liked? Yeah, that's okay. I kind of like this one. It looks a little more, I don't know, codey or something. Like we're computer people. All right, I'm going to stop doing those. So honestly, this is looking pretty good. So we have quite a bit of stuff that went on here. The biggest part and the most tricky one is to actually get these these to work to basically have the dynamic dropdowns within a query. But just to kind of review this whole thing, we use the query function on the import HTML in order to A, get the header, B, remove blanks, C, remove the try your keywords that was just getting pulled. Then we split this into an if statement to both pull if there's a filter type as well as the filter the name using those dropdowns based off of the data that is from this query as well as this side one here. Then we also did this query here to have a counted, like basically a unique as well as the count of to group by and get an accurate count of each one of these. We also did a COUNTA just to show how many functions are being shown, did a little bit of formatting, and then made this nice helpful table. Now, one thing I would recommend is anytime that you're using the import HTML, let's say something goes on, this website gets, I don't know, removed from the internet, or, you know, they changed the URL or something goes on. Data could be lost from that if you only have this. So it's kind of good to have, and I'll just call this function table. It's good to have a copy of it. So I'm going to duplicate this and just call it static function table. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy it all and then paste value by Command Shift V. And essentially all I did is now there's no query function. This is just text. That also means these filters aren't going to work because there's no query to filter it from. So keep that in mind here. But really what it is I just want to make sure that I keep this data just in case something happens where one day it just stops working. You know, again, if the website changes in a way, you might have to update the links. They might have a new security thing to not allow web scraping. Something else could totally happen. Who knows? So this is just, again, to protect what you currently have. And then, again, if it's one that's often doing that, it might be good to copy and paste it every so often just so that you don't lose, you know, valuable time or information. So, you know, again, for this one, not a bad idea to keep it, especially because it's not going to really change all that much here. But you know, it might. You never know. Well, that's pretty much the conclusion of this. We got it looking good. We used all of those things to be able to filter, show some just quick numbers on them. And now it's your time to just kind of look at some different ones. Like here, we used query. You can now just look at those, and I think the syntax is especially helpful. Oops, let's remove that. XLOOKUP. So then you can see it. Again, you can just go to that website if you wanted to. You can also go to insert, and then you can go into function, and it has all of them here. And, you know, again, there's other places for it. This is just nice to always have it on hand, just to see what's out there, you know? So that's all that we have here. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this will help you in your work with your spreadsheet skills. If you have questions on it, you can leave it in the comment. That like button helps. If you liked it, let me know what you think. Also, just let me know if you like this format better, where it's a little bit longer, but, you know, again, we're not breaking it up into 3 or 4 videos, you know, that are shorter. It's just kind of going through and completing the project. So thank you again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.